Welcome to Car Ranker. Today, we're taking a very different journey through Cadillac's history. Not the luxury legends or the iconic cruisers, but the disappointments. Cadillac is one of America's most prestigious brands, known for big engines, bold designs, and pure comfort. But even the best make mistakes, and Cadillac has had models that were unreliable, underpowered, over-engineered, or just confusing. So in this video, we're counting down the top 10 worst Cadillac models of all time. Cars that frustrated owners, hurt Cadillac's reputation, or simply didn't live up to the luxury badge. Maybe you've seen one, maybe you've owned one, or maybe you're about to discover Cadillac models you never knew were this bad. Let's start with number 10. At number 10, we're starting strong with what many people call the worst Cadillac ever made, the Cadillac Cimarron. Cadillac wanted to enter the compact luxury market, but instead of building something worthy of the badge, they took a basic Chevrolet Cavalier, added leather seats, a Cadillac grille, and called it a day. Buyers immediately noticed. The Cimarron lacked power, comfort, and that signature Cadillac feel. It wasn't luxurious, it wasn't fast, and it definitely wasn't what anyone expected for the price. Even GM executives later admitted the car was rushed and should have never happened. The Cimarron didn't just fail, it damaged Cadillac's reputation throughout the 1980s and became the ultimate example of badge engineering gone wrong. The Cimarron was so disliked that many Cadillac dealers refused to stock it unless forced by GM. At number 9, we've got a car Cadillac tried to market as the Caddy that zigs, but in reality, it mostly zigged into reliability issues, the Cadillac Catera. This was supposed to be Cadillac's fun, sporty, European-inspired sedan, based on an Opel Omega. But instead of bringing new energy to the brand, it brought overheating problems, timing belt failures, electrical glitches, oil leaks, and one of the most painful maintenance reputations of the late 90s. Owners complained that the Catera spent more time at the dealership than in their driveway. And the worst part? It didn't even feel like a Cadillac. No real luxury presence, no standout performance, and nothing memorable except the headaches. Even with a clever ad campaign featuring a cartoon duck, the Catera became known as the car that tried to be youthful, but ended up being one of Cadillac's biggest misfires. At number 8, we have a car that should have been great, but instead became one of Cadillac's most expensive mistakes, the Cadillac Allante. On paper, it sounded incredible, an Italian-designed luxury roadster styled by Pininfarina, hand-finished in Italy, flown to the US by Boeing 747s, and combined with American engineering, it was meant to beat Mercedes and Jaguar. But in reality, the Allante suffered from poor build quality, electrical failures, leaky tops, underpowered engines, and one of the strangest, most complicated production processes ever created, which made it insanely expensive to produce, yet still not truly competitive. People loved the idea of the Allante, but not the execution. It didn't drive like a true sports car, it didn't offer the luxury Cadillac promised, and it couldn't justify its premium price. Today, it's remembered as a good attempt that just didn't land. Number 7 is a model that could have been great, but instead became known for engine trouble, electronics issues, and sky-high maintenance bills, the final generation Cadillac Seville. The Seville had the looks, the luxury, and even the attitude to compete with European sedans, but its biggest problem was under the hood, the Northstar Valve 8. Yes, it was powerful, but it was also notorious for head gasket failures, overheating, oil consumption, and repairs that cost thousands. Add in aging electronics, suspension failures, and poor long-term reliability, and the Seville quickly lost its shine. Owners loved how it drove when it worked, they just hated how often it didn't. Even today, used Sevilles can be tempting because of the low price, but most car enthusiasts will warn you, if it has a North Star, be ready for battle. Number 6 brings us to one of Cadillac's most popular and most problematic SUVs, the Cadillac SRX, first generation. When it launched, people loved it. Sleek styling, optional V8 power, a roomy interior, and that modern Cadillac vibe. But behind the good looks came a long list of headaches that pushed many owners to the edge. The SRX became infamous for timing chain failures, transmission problems, electrical malfunctions, and sunroof leaks that felt more like waterfalls. On top of that, the early versions suffered from expensive suspension issues, and the V6 models were known for premature engine wear. It sold well, but many of those owners later said the same thing. It drove great until it didn't. Even today, used SRX models are everywhere, and mechanics will tell you they stay busy because of them. At number 5, we've got a vehicle that looked bold, flashy, and totally unique, but the execution didn't quite live up to the image, the Cadillac Escalade EXT. On the outside, it was basically a luxury pickup version of the Escalade, and yes, it turned heads everywhere. But under the skin, it shared most of its structure with the Chevy Avalanche, which made a lot of buyers question why they were paying such a premium. The EXT struggled with electrical issues, drivetrain problems, air suspension failures, and a list of annoying small defects that added up fast. And because it was neither a full luxury SUV nor a true work truck, it existed in a strange space that didn't fully satisfy either crowd. Sales were never strong, and the maintenance costs pushed many owners away. Today it's considered cool to look at, but not so cool to own. At number 4, we have a car that should have pushed Cadillac into the modern luxury sedan era, but instead fell short in almost every key area, the Cadillac STS. When it debuted, the STS was meant to compete with the BMW 5 Series and Mercedes E-Class, and on paper, it looked promising. Rear-wheel drive, optional V8 power, magnetic ride suspension, and all the tech Cadillac could squeeze in. But here's the problem. The STS suffered from massive reliability issues. Owners reported electrical failures, timing chain problems, flaky sensors, transmission issues, and, once again, headaches from the infamous North Star 5.8, including overheating and oil consumption. Repairs weren't cheap either. A simple fix could turn into a 4-figure job, making the STS one of the most expensive Cadillacs to maintain from its era. And despite all the tech, it never delivered the sharp, refined driving feel buyers expected from a German rival. It was trying hard, just not succeeding. At number 3, we've got a car that almost hit the mark, but missed just enough to land on this list, the Cadillac ATS. Cadillac built the ATS to take on the BMW 3 Series, and in many ways, it actually did a good job. The chassis was excellent, the handling was sharp, and the car finally gave Cadillac something genuinely sporty. But the big problem? Everything else. The ATS was plagued with electrical issues, touchscreen failures from the early CUE infotainment system, leaking sunroofs, engine stalling problems, weak turbo durability, and transmission issues that made shifting feel inconsistent and clunky. Owners also complained about cramped rear seats and cheap-feeling interior materials, not exactly what you expect in a luxury sedan. It drove beautifully when everything worked, but for many owners, things didn't work often enough. High maintenance costs caused resale values to tank, turning what should have been a German fighter into one of Cadillac's biggest almost cars. At number 2, we're looking at a car that carried one of Cadillac's most iconic names, but unfortunately also carried one of the brand's worst reliability reputations, the final generation Cadillac Deville. This was supposed to be the classic American luxury sedan, big, comfortable, smooth, and loaded with features. And to be fair, when the Deville was new, people loved the comfort and the ride quality. It felt like a true Cadillac. But the problems showed up fast. Just like many Cadillacs from this era, the Deville suffered from North Star 5.8 failures, including overheating, blown head gaskets, oil consumption, and repairs that could easily cost thousands. On top of that, owners reported electrical glitches, failing instrument clusters, suspension problems, and air conditioning systems that quit without warning. And because the Deville was popular with older buyers, many were driven gently, which ironically made things worse since North Star engines often needed aggressive driving to avoid carbon buildup. The Deville wasn't a bad idea. It was just held back by one of Cadillac's most notorious engines and a wave of maintenance issues that turned a luxury cruiser into a long-term nightmare. And finally, at number 1, we've got the Cadillac that frustrated more owners than any other modern model, the Cadillac XTS. On the surface, the XTS looked like a solid luxury sedan. Big interior, smooth ride, tons of tech, and a quiet cabin. It even became extremely popular as a limo and airport car because of its comfort. But when you dig deeper, the issues stack up fast. The XTS developed a reputation for catastrophic brake failures, suspension collapses, electrical malfunctions, and some of the worst KUE infotainment touchscreen failures of any Cadillac owners complained that the screen would crack on its own, freeze, stop responding, or simply turn black betyke. And replacing it wasn't cheap. The 3.6-litre V6 also had its problems: timing chain stretching, rough idling, and oil consumption. Combine that with failing magnetic ride shocks and steering issues, and you get a luxury sedan that costs a fortune to keep on the road. Despite being comfortable, the XTS quickly became known as a money pit. Many owners said the same thing. It felt like a Cadillac until the repairs started. And that wraps up our countdown of the top 10 worst Cadillac models of all time. Some of these cars had bold ideas, ambitious designs, or moments of potential, but they also came with problems that owners will never forget. Cadillac is still an iconic American luxury brand, but even legends have missteps, and this list proves that a premium badge doesn't always guarantee a perfect ride. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment. If you had to drive one of these Cadillacs, which one would you pick and why? And if you've owned any of these models before, share your experience, good or bad. People love reading real stories. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe to join the Car Ranker family, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly rankings.